Hey everyone, welcome back to When the Call Hits Home. My name is Ashlee Jennifer. I'm a licensed clinical social worker.
I'm Jennifer Woosley, a licensed professional clinical counselor, and welcome.
Yeah, we are excited. So we have some exciting news today. It is our first guest interview. So we have Josh with us, and we're going to kind of hand it over to him to just introduce himself for us a little bit before we dive into our questions and really get to know him.
Hi, my name is Josh Holmuth. I am a son of paramedic firefighter, ex-paramedic firefighter. He's retired, and I also was a Navy veteran too. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for your service. Yeah. So our first question we just wanted to get started and ask is, what was it like growing up with a firefighter as a parent? So what was that experience like for you, Josh?
I loved having a firefighter as a parent. I thought it was cool. Really looked up to him. He was like a hero, kind of. I always wanted to be around the firehouse, the fire trucks. Yeah, it was an experience for sure.
That's wonderful.
That is
Wonderful.
so wonderful.
It was a family atmosphere, very
Ooh,
much.
okay, I like that.
So they were welcoming at the firehouse then.
Oh, for sure. For
That
sure.
is cool. That is awesome. I love that. And I love that you said that he was your hero. I think, for me, that's definitely something that I always say when I first start talking about my dad. I'm like, well, it's kind of cool. It's kind of my hero lived with me. So
Right.
I love that. How do you think your parents' job or your dad's job in this case influenced your childhood and kind of like your perspective on life now?
So he, so my dad, like, he would always stress safety. And growing up, I was always stressing safety and stuff. And I felt more at a young age, more of a responsible person compared to other childhood friends that I've had in the neighborhood growing up. And I actually, in fact, one of my best friends, his dad was a cop, and they
Mhm.
were good friends. And he he really influenced me to have a good work ethic, organized, try out any skill you can. I mean, I looked up to him, and I always wanted to kind of follow in his footsteps.
That's wonderful. When did you feel like that safety piece? Like, when did you kind of notice, like, I'm going to pay attention to like smoke detectors, or, I'm going to pay
Um,
attention at the 4th of July lighting fireworks,
well, now that you say Fourth of July, that was a big safety thing. I mean, I
Of
think the
course,
only
of
thing I could
course.
do was sparklers.
You have a
Uh,
smart dad.
yeah, but the funny part, like, first time I really noticed it was my mom having candles in the house. Like,
Oh.
she wasn't even. She said, he's like, I had so many fires with candles burning, people leaving them
Mhm.
burning. And that was a huge red flag. I was like, oh, we can't even have candles. Even today, he's still stickler on that and
Well,
safety and
understand,
concern.
especially when you make those kind of calls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were some of the positive aspects? I definitely think you've kind of mentioned that some in terms of some things that your dad taught you and him being such an incredible hero for you. But what were some positive aspects of having a firefighter dad?
Positives, he would always tell you what to do without telling you what to do, kind of.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
he he was just, I felt like the rules and the safety concerns that he did have helped me in a positive way of being more safety cautious, not a risk factor. Yeah, the like I said before, the camaraderie of the
Yeah.
firehouse.
Mm.
And I mean, he had duties like he had to cook, he had to get along with other people. And this is when he started at the Elgin, because in Huntley he didn't have, it was a volunteer basis
Okay.
when started growing up here in the 80s and 90s.
Mm.
And then he got full time in Elgin and that's when it was 24 hours on, 48 hours off. So he had to stay at the firehouse with
Gotcha.
people that he didn't really know, and he had to learn to get along with them
Mm.
for that 24 hours, and like cooking, cleaning, bathrooms, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know that fire does have they are really particular, right? Like they are very clean. They have to do things in
Yes.
certain ways. Do you feel
Mhm.
like that was a positive for you? Like, do you feel like you kind of got some of that from him?
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't leave the house without my bed made.
Oh,
Garbages, I didn't have to take it out every day, but like when it was full, to take it
Yeah.
out.
Can your dad throw down in the kitchen? Like, can he cook?
Yeah. Well, at the firehouse state, it was funny because when they grocery shop, they would just be buying all these meats and then they
Mm.
grill out and sides and stuff. So that he could do well. And breakfast too. He was a killer at breakfast. There's another memory that I actually took from him because that's what my passion was, doing the breakfast.
Yeah, okay, nice.
oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
was giggling a little bit because I'm like, my dad's gonna listen to this and be like, so my daughter did not pick up on those cleaning skills when she was a child,
Right.
I was gonna ask if that transitioned to making your bed in the Navy pretty easily.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's what it was, because right when I went to the Navy, it was the same stuff.
You didn't have a huge culture shock.
No, it was, right away I did my laundry. I didn't have to cook, but we did grill out and stuff with my buddies.
Yeah.
But like on the ship, I wasn't a cook, so I didn't cook. But everything else, I pretty much did. Yeah, it was an
Okay.
experience.
What a great point. That was awesome, Jennifer. To that train, that was amazing. Such a good point there. Were there any like challenges or fears growing up with a firefighter as a parent for you?
Just fears of my dad not coming home, or
Yeah.
being hurt, being injured, or God forbid, dead from
Right.
something. There was a lot of, at the time in Elgin, there was a lot of gang activity,
Oh.
things like that,
Okay.
that he would see too as a paramedic. And then he would
Mm.
also see the fires and going in 10-story buildings.
Wow, so fair. And this is a little bit of a challenging question. So if you don't know it, totally okay. Do you remember that first time, like around what age you were when you first had that like anxiety or fear, like for your dad?
Probably when he's probably about fifth grade, fifth.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So fair.
And that's definitely some different things to respond to. Like you said, a 10-story building or responding to somebody with paramedic needs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for challenges, just the unknown, I guess.
Hmm.
If because sometimes he's 24 hours on, but then sometimes somebody can't show or doesn't
Oh,
show,
right.
then he does a double. And
Hmm.
just the unknown of him. And when he first started, he was the bottom of the barrel, so he'd have to do nights
Yeah.
a lot. So we'd cross paths, and the thing that we had in common was basketball. So
Okay.
we would find time to do basketball, play pickup games and things like that at a local park over here in
Mm.
Huntley. So
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. That kind of leads us a little bit into our next question. And you were saying he has the 24 on, 40 off. And did you said he was in the volunteer fire department first. Is that when you were younger? Like, have you been alive through all his
yeah,
career? Okay. So it wasn't something like
because
he'd been a firefighter and then had you and
so a little bit of background, he worked, I don't know, like 10 years or something for the cable company, and then he
okay.
switched
So
to
like a
be
second
fired.
career.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like when I was pretty much when I was about 2, that's
Gotcha.
when he kind of switched careers.
So Josh, you really grew up in the firehouse then if
Yeah.
you're 2 years old.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's all I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so with that 24 on, 48 off, and then like you said, people get sick or, don't show up for work and you gotta pull a double and all those kind of things. How did that impact like your schedule and the family's schedule, and how did you guys work through that or maneuver through that scheduling, like if he's on nights and
So dinner would be hard, but by that time it was like high school, well, middle school to high school, it was our dinners were just sporadic,
okay.
different times, and we all had sports too. We were all
Well,
a
yeah, if
sports
you're
family.
playing basketball, that's a full-time job in high school
Yeah.
too. Mhm.
So it yeah, it just that's the main part of the some of the challenges for growing up with a dad in the fire department was the dinners and just sometimes not coming home in time.
Right, like, oh, I think I'll get off at this time, but like you said, if there's a call or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That shift work is really hard, I think, for a lot of first responders.
yeah, especially I think the families are impacted by that quite a bit. But also, when you start this at 2, it is kind of maybe a little bit of the expectation. Josh, I don't know, like, did
Right.
you feel like, oh man, where's dad at? Or was it just like, that's what it is?
Yeah, it was just it is what it is, and he's providing. And the main part that I just thought about, he's out there saving people and helping people. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
pretty selfless perspective at a young age.
and
Yeah.
he was fearless, and that I forgot to mention that he was a fearless dad. So he nothing really got to him, and he would just do it and coach at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So was he, I mean, you talked about enjoying basketball, like was he able to make games and things
Oh yeah,
like
he
that?
he pretty much wouldn't miss a game. They have these days what they're called Kelly days, which is basically basically like a personal day he can take off.
Okay,
He gets so many a year or so many a
gotcha,
fiscal year.
gotcha.
That's nice to have.
Well, it sounds like you guys really prioritize basketball as a family.
Yeah, basketball for me and my two
Okay,
brothers would, well, my other brother didn't really play in high school,
yeah,
my littlest brother, but my middle brother, he he played football and basketball. So
okay.
I think sports are such a great way to bond. So that's awesome that you had that with him and that, you might still do. So that's amazing that you do. That's one thing that I know for myself as well. That was a way for me and my dad to connect. And
yeah,
I think that's just incredible that that sports really brings people together. And I
yeah,
think
it
Jennifer
does.
and I will talk a little bit later too about how that is such a part of building resiliency and with your children. And so I
Yeah.
really love the sports example. I have to give a shout out to that because that is
And well,
Jennifer knows me so well. She knows that's like my heart and soul. I'm like, yes, I love sports.
I
yeah.
mean, I think if you could make this a Bears podcast, you would, but I appreciate you like making this about first responders and kids of
Yeah.
first
I
responders.
could really do some damage, you guys.
They
But
the sports, and then I do that with my own kids too, because
Right.
and you build that's how I kind of build rapport with other people too, like because I work at a school, so I talking about sports and my dad or what I went through helps me along with the others. So
it really breaks down barriers.
yeah.
It really does. It's a great way to connect. So you did already mention that you grew up in the fire station. So I think it's only appropriate for us to ask you, do you have a funny story or maybe one of your best memories of hanging out with them there?
I can't really think of a funny story. Just grilling out
Yeah.
and saying jokes and stuff, and in a firehouse, it's dirty jokes usually.
I was just about to say.
So I had to
I've never heard
grew up
that
with
from
that too.
any first responders that are inappropriate ever. Like that's not
Yeah.
a thing.
So, and sometimes, like if I brought girlfriends to the fire station, I tend to get embarrassed. they
Oh,
they embarrassed me. So
Yeah. Sounds like a real family atmosphere.
yeah.
Will you indulge me? I told Ashley this story earlier, and Josh, I literally just met you. And Ashley, we will cut this if it's too bad.
We're not cutting it.
Well, I want to get Josh, I want to get your thoughts on this story. So I told Ashley, I was like, I have a firefighter story. So a long time ago, I don't know if you've ever heard of the police and fire games, if that was
Yes.
something okay, sports family, of course.
Yeah.
So my dad participated in police and fire games, and so went to one of them in a different city, and we got to go see a firehouse. Like local people showed us the firehouse, and in their gym was a poster of Backdraft, like movie
Oh.
poster of Backdraft.
Yeah.
And another guy who was a firefighter commented and told this story. This is not my story. I heard this story that when that movie came out and was released, there was a firefighter that would take possibly multiple girls to this movie and would take popcorn and put it in his eyes to appear that he was crying
Oh.
to get the attention of the date to see the movie.
Oh.
But that was my I thought that story was pretty funny and pretty smart fire guy. Like just like
It's funny that you say Backdraft because that's the only R-rated movie I could watch.
That's a funny story right there, Josh.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing.
So your dad approved that movie, like he was a
Yes.
fan? Okay.
Yes, for sure. And Cindy Crawford was in it.
I'm sure there was some stories at the firehouse about that, but we'll
Yes.
keep it moving. We'll keep it moving. So I think you kind of have mentioned this already in some of the stuff that you've talked about with your dad and the work ethic and his commitment. And, it sounds like some really great expectations that he had in the house. Like, we take the trash out, we make our beds, a lot of like wonderful responsibility for ourselves. But just kind of adding on to that as well, like what values or lessons do you feel like you learned from your dad's dedication to being a firefighter?
Just to always work hard. Don't take anything for granted. And you're always going to have people you don't want to work with, and you just choose to handle it in a good way. And don't just leave jobs, after job because you don't like somebody. You got to work through things.
That's such an interesting dynamic that I just, again, please, no, I'm just so naive about, what's it like being a firefighter or, growing up by a parent who is a firefighter. And I wouldn't even think about that, like the dynamics of somebody maybe you have to spend 24 hours with. It's not your favorite person, but what a great lesson in life, right? Like this is how you endure. Because sometimes I think we think like we only surround ourselves with people we like. And I mean, I think that's great if we have that opportunity, but there's some real skill in navigating, being with somebody that's maybe not our favorite and how to manage it and not get an assault charge or something like that. So
and that kind of trickled over to the Navy as well, because I'm sleeping on a ship with 300 plus people.
Can't imagine.
Mine was a small ship, and there was like over 300 people. Wow. So it was like, and you had people that didn't know how to do laundry and stuff like that. And I was fortunate to know all these skills prior to going in, on top of not working after high school and going in when I was 21. So
wow. So you didn't go in right at 18?
No, I thought about it at first, and then I decided just to work, and then I felt myself going down a hole that I didn't want to be in. So I went to the Navy and, tried firefighting through them. And I met some awesome people. So
yeah, that's wonderful. And I think it's incredible that you had the insight to say maybe like, well, where I'm at, this path I'm on is not necessarily what I want to be on. And I have some power and some choice, and let me, to serve. That's awesome.
Well, I feel like this goes Yeah, absolutely. I think that this goes right into our next question, which is awesome as well, of just, did your dad's job influence your career choices or, gain your interest, which you kind of answered a little bit, but yeah, if you want to talk a little bit more about that and if it did influence your choices with all your
Yeah,
careers.
it did. I went into the Navy without having a technical job and just trying to strike out and trying to get firefighting. But when you got there, everybody really gets trained. But I
Mhm.
went above and beyond. So I did advanced fire school
Oh,
and I
wow.
Wow.
was also doing maintenance on the ship. So I had that, and he influenced me. And my mom, throughout the years, saw that, what my dad went through with the firehouse, and she kind of pushed me away from the fire department. So I chose as a, teenage son going on 20, 21. I was like, well, I'm going to join the Navy and do it. And that didn't go good either, but just because I was putting myself in more harm's way.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
um
a mom's
but
response about protecting her kids
yeah,
probably a little bit different, isn't it?
but she found out that it shaped me into a better person.
Yeah.
So she
Well, so in terms of that, kind of shaping and that experience, and obviously, again, your service to our country, but is there some ties between, dad's service to the community as a firefighter and again, parallels with your service in the service, in the Navy? Is there some connections there? I think you've kind of named a little bit of that, but I guess to maybe go a
yeah,
little bit deeper.
and this is why America, United States is so great, is because we don't only help ourselves, we help everybody. So like
Mhm.
just like the firemen and policemen, they help everybody. And when we go overseas, we get orders. Like I didn't go on land very much, but I was doing hacks. I was doing
Wow.
helping different communities.
Yeah. Well, and people in severe need. I mean, if the Navy's
Yeah,
responding to their need, that's a
right.
pretty extreme need.
And
Yeah.
people that nowadays don't really understand why we do this, but it's because we're a great resource. We're good.
Hmm.
We're good at what we do. So
Right, right. Yeah, and it sounds like again, since age two, growing up in that service and kind of knowing that there's this kind of bigger calling sometimes to our life than just serving ourselves. So I think that
right.
that's powerful. And especially, you said this earlier, like recognizing, man, it's a dad's not here, for dinner, but also like that perspective of, but I can recognize that dad's saving lives. I mean, I think that's a pretty big thing for a kid to acknowledge really young. I just want to give you kind of some kudos to that. That's
Oh,
pretty
thanks.
incredible. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Being a child of a firefighter, has that sort of kind of prepared you for different challenges in your life? I mean, I feel like for you, you have done so much incredible things. So I don't know, I think some of it may have, but also you're just extremely resilient and have done awesome stuff. But do you feel like there was anything that did kind of prepare you for those challenges that you have faced?
Just, I mean, sports even helped. I mean, back back then it was like, I mean, I when I say back then, I'm not talking like I feel like I'm 60 or something. But no, it's like in the 90s when sports really prepared you. They really got on you to do incredible things. My dad with the firehouse, the work ethic helps me with today doing my own yard stuff or
Hmm.
construction, because he does construction on the side because he's
Oh,
retired
wow.
now. So he teaches me like that sort of thing. So yeah,
Nice.
it's prepared me a lot. And there is stuff on my bucket list still.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done a lot, but there is, and I traveled a lot. Um,
Yeah.
Ah,
but there is places that I still want to go. Like I haven't been to Europe with the Navy, and I'd love to do Europe.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's awesome. I think we should just lean in and make this the sports podcast. So, like, who's your team? Like, obviously basketball, 90s. I'm a Jordan your
yeah,
guy. Okay.
yeah,
Did you
Jordan's
watch
your
The
guy.
Last Dance?
yeah. I did watch The Last Dance. And-
Thoughts, feelings?
oh, I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I
So we are
can't.
Bulls fans, so it's safe to say we are a Bulls fan.
Bulls fans, Bears,
Ah, oof,
Blackhawks.
this is my guy right here.
I can't imagine because I mean I'm originally from Louisville and I can't imagine growing up because I mean Jordan's like a massive thing nationally. I can't imagine like that being in your backyard, like like being that close to the action.
Yeah, and I mean, there's stories of me. I was going to see Jordan in the late 80s.
Oh my gosh.
My dad's fireman friend had season tickets, so I
Oh,
would go at least 2 or 3 games a year.
stop.
Yeah, and
That's incredible.
and my dad's other fireman friend had Bears season tickets, so I was seeing him. I was seeing, you know,
So me and Josh at our next new podcast called a breakdown of Chicago sports, because I feel like
yes,
we could really make this happen. I mean, we can
that
talk
alone
after
is
this.
all my trips to Chicago. My parents love Chicago. That's another podcast I could even do.
I love this. No, I mean, thank you so much for sharing everything that you did today. It's been super helpful, and I feel like I've learned a ton. And then as I'm sitting here, what I really love is that my brain is just so much like, wow, this is very similar to being like a child, like because my dad was a police officer and Jennifer's was as well. So I see so many similarities and so many differences though too, which is
Mhm.
which is also just very cool. And the whole reason why we wanted to do this podcast is because we're like, we want everyone, there's so many connections we can have, and then there's so many ways we can learn from each other. And
For
your
sure.
story has been, I mean, super helpful.
Well, I think that, kind of broad label of first responders, and yet it's broken into, separate kind of buckets. And then within that, what are the families of people, Leo firefighters, like that there's similar experiences and then there's different experiences as well. Like, I mean, 24 hours away from my dad, like
Yeah.
that wasn't a thing, like he inevitably, even if he worked nights or days, like we would see them in that day. And I definitely know if there was somebody that he didn't get along with, he wasn't trying to make them his beat partner. Like he
Yes,
got some
right.
separation
That's
for
so
sure.
fair.
So like again, that like I mean, your dad probably had two families, like the
Yep.
firehouse family, and then the family of
Yep.
you kiddos and stuff.
And
So
my best friend that lived across the street, his dad was a cop, so he'd take me everywhere. He was a cop in Cary, so he would take me places, and I'd get the, you know, police environment.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was a neat environment, and he'd take me to where the police bar and pub is, and so I had that.
Where there was probably more dirty jokes.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just no, not a bar involved. So true. So true.
Well, that's cool too that you have that perspective with him. We might need his.
Yeah,
Right.
right, exactly. Well, Josh, is there anything else that you want to share or anything that comes to mind? I don't, that was our question. So we're just so thankful. And if there's anything else
Yeah.
you do want to,
No, I just appreciate you doing this and having me on. It's been great, and thanks for making me feel comfortable. I feel like I've known you guys,
good.
so it's good thing that you're doing this. It's yeah, I have nothing really more to add.
Well, we are just so thankful for your time. The most important, valuable thing we have is our time. And so you giving us some of that this evening is wonderful. And again, our first guest, and
Yeah.
we just appreciate your ability to answer these questions for us and just really enlighten us about your experience.
Yes, absolutely. And then again, thank you for your service as well. I mean, geez, we could not have had a better guest For good
I
to
agree.
one.
Thank you.
That
I
is
agree.
what I feel.
Right. So we just wrapped with Josh, and was that just not so kind of him to give us some of his time and get to answer all our crazy questions?
I mean, talk about his willingness to be vulnerable with us and share his personal life. I think that was so amazing of him, and he did a great job.
He did, and I really appreciate all he shared. You know, the last podcast we were talking about resiliency, and we just kind of want to build on that. And I think Josh did a great job of talking about some of his experiences. And I think you named this first about the sports piece.
Yeah, so the sports piece really hit home for me in that interview, but also as a therapist, just thinking about resiliency and the way we talk about how do we help our children build resiliency, and one of those big ways we could do that is connection. And so when he was like, I play basketball or we play basketball, I instantly thought, wow, that's the same for me and my dad. I connect with my dad big time on sports even to this day, and so I think that connection and then his encouragement to play as we were kids. I mean, man, I remember him being real tough on us during our softball days, but what did that teach me? It taught me not to give up. Like it taught me that even in bad games to keep going and to keep trying and to practice and get better. And so building connection, whichever that may be, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit more for somebody, I think it's super beneficial in building resiliency in your children.
Absolutely. And I probably should have Googled this research, but I will say, and training and resiliency, the research says that, if a child has one connection with an adult that's consistent, believes in them, that they have something to connect to, that just builds the child's resiliency. And I think we definitely get messages about, kids are so resilient, and that is absolutely 100% true. With that being said, it's still a skill and something that we really want to build, and especially as parents and with our kids. And I think you're right that sports is a great place where that can happen and foster. And I played sports, and it was a big connection. And I think Josh really mentioned this, like there's a lot to be learned just about life and sports. You win some, you lose some, all that. But I also think just whatever that connection is for your family. Like I said, we definitely played sports. And I don't know if you played softball. We played pickle in the backyard. That was a big one in our family. But also too, like we would go canoeing or we kind of had those
Yep.
traditions as well, that I think is a nice way to connect, and like whatever that is. And sometimes it's about what interests our kids too, and like that's something we get to learn. I hope that I didn't ask for permission to share this, but I don't think he'd mind too much. But my brother ended up playing lacrosse, and where we're from, like lacrosse wasn't a thing when my brother started playing, which was like, I think like in middle school. And he would have to he was the only team in town, and we would have to go to tournaments. And so, that's a sport that he was interested in. My dad, my mom had no clue about lacrosse, but I think encouraged that through him. So I think it's also can be really fun to maybe let your kids sometimes show them the interest in building on that together too, as a connector.
I think that's a great point. And it doesn't have to be sports, right? Like we talked about how it can be any connection that you have, right? Maybe music, playing in nature in general. I think we both challenge our first responders who are parents right now to find that connection with your child, whether that be the child kind of guiding you to it, or knowing already some of the passions that you do share in common. And that is such a key way to building resiliency.
Yeah, especially again in our kiddos, which I think is one of the most important things that we can do for our kids, is to build something like that would help them throughout their life. And again, just to thank Josh so much. But I think he really shared that about, learning so early and how that helped him throughout his whole career and life. And I mean, I know I talk about this with clients a lot, that being a parent and being a kid is just really dress rehearsal for turning 18 and being an adult, and it's all the practice. And as a parent, maybe I needed to hear that myself today. Yeah, it's very true.
So true. Well, again, thank you, Jennifer. I think, we're going to keep building. We're just going to keep building
Yeah.
from here and continuing to drop a little bit of these helpful tools to help build resiliency within ourselves, within our children.
Yeah, and our families for sure. And thank you again for listening to When the Call Hits Home.
Yeah, my favorite ending, right, is when the call hits home. Jennifer and I are going to be here for you. So we'll catch you guys next episode. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Yes, thank you, Josh. Bye.